Welcome to the debate. Today we're diving into a really fundamental tension from our source material. It's this conflict between what the marketplace demands, which is efficiency, and the cultivation of inner awareness.
And the material draws a very hard line here. It says quite clearly that awareness and mechanicalness cannot exist together. So that forces a really difficult question on us. Is that radical separation, that hard line, truly necessary for a genuine life? Or, does the reality of human existence demand something a bit more practical?
And I'll be arguing that yes, it is necessary, that awareness has to be the absolute priority, the non-negotiable. And if that means losing some conventional efficiency, well, that's just the cost of realizing your true being. The directive is to risk everything for awareness, after all.
And I'm going to argue that while awareness is without a doubt the highest value, this idea of a complete rejection of efficiency, it just doesn't work. It completely fails to address the basic fundamental human need for survival in the world. So we have to look for a more critical integration, not a complete rejection.
Okay, so my position comes right from the materials breakdown of the marketplace. It demands efficiency. That's a quality of machines. And so to succeed in that system, to get the money, the power, the prestige, you essentially have to become robot-like. You have to become mechanical. And this isn't just some side effect. The source is very clear. As that mechanicalness takes over, your awareness, which is described as your real being, it starts to fade. And this compromise, this trade, means any success you get is frankly bought by losing yourself very cheaply. All those gains are described as worthless in the long run. And if you look at the figures who really left a mark, a Buddha or a Christ, their legacy comes precisely because they refused to make that compromise. They didn't trade their awareness for what society demanded. So the choice is stark. It's temporary gain versus, the fulfillment of your destiny.
I see that. And I agree completely that the endless pursuit of success, that's the rat race, right? The drive for more and more power, more prestige, that is absolutely what kills awareness. I don't dispute that at all. But the material also points out that a certain amount of efficiency is required for just, basic success, the kind of success that keeps you alive. And that presents a really difficult practical problem. If you just abandon all efficiency, how do you even start this journey? How do you secure the money you need for food, for shelter, just to have the space to cultivate this awareness you're talking about? We can't just ignore these fundamental needs. So I have to challenge this assumption that all efficiency is the enemy. I suspect that when successful people are forgotten, it's not because they were efficient, it's because they lacked awareness while they were pursuing success. The goal should be to hold on to awareness during those necessary actions, not to abandon them entirely.
Well, let's get into the mechanics of it, because I think that's where the problem lies. You're suggesting you can do both, but the material explicitly states awareness and mechanicalness cannot exist together. The problem with efficiency is that it requires what the source calls the speed of the mind, this very narrow, focused, programmed way of thinking that's designed for one optimal outcome. Awareness, on the other hand, it's diffuse, it's relaxed, it's a state of being. The second your mind has to speed up and narrow its focus to do an efficient task, that spaciousness that awareness needs it's gone. That's why any compromise is a contamination. To get the machine-like result, you have to sacrifice the quality of being, even if it's just for a moment. And those moments add up.
Okay, I see it differently. I think the issue is the scope of that contamination. I accept that the speed of the mind is the enemy of awareness. But does a necessary, efficient action, let's say filling out a form correctly to get paid, does that truly require the total, relentless speed that defines being a machine? Or does that mechanicalness only truly set in when you identify completely with the need for that speed to get more and more and more?
But the mindset is the same.
Is it, though? I would argue the real issue is the desire for limitless success, which demands that constant speed. That's what leads you to identify with the machine. If I perform a task efficiently to survive, but my inner state is still relaxed, still detached from the outcome, have I really sacrificed my soul? The efficient action is just a transaction for survival. The mechanicalness is the spiritual trap you fall into when that transaction becomes an end in itself.
But that's a very fine line to walk.
It is, but it's the line we live on. So let's talk about the survival dilemma this creates.
You say we have to risk everything for awareness. What does that mean practically? How do we square that with the unavoidable need to earn a living, to feed a family? If you become radically inefficient in everything you do, financial ruin isn't a possibility, it's an inevitability. Is awareness only a luxury for people who can afford to be marginalized?
That's a fair question, but I think the answer requires reframing what a valuable life even is. The material tells us to be contented with your awareness, not to be jealous of the efficient mechanical ones. So the solution isn't necessarily to starve, but to consciously accept a simpler life with fewer material possessions.
Okay.
Your awareness becomes the fulfillment of your destiny. And when that happens, your need for all those marketplace gains, it just shrinks dramatically. You need less, you desire less, and so the need to be relentlessly efficient just falls away.
I agree that we have to redefine success away from just accumulating things, but I'm still skeptical that this redefinition just magically solves the logistics of survival in our world. If I can't perform basic tasks with some efficiency, I mean, even just dealing with modern bureaucracy, I lose the very time and space I need to cultivate awareness in the first place.
So maybe the risk isn't the risk of starvation. Maybe the risk is giving up the desire for external validation, for more comfort than you need. If I have to work 8 hours a day to survive, then my focus has to be on making sure those 8 hours aren't just mechanical striving for more. They're 8 hours of necessary action where, internally, I fight to remain aware. We have to find a way to integrate this into the world we live in, not just retreat from it.
I understand that desire for integration. I do. When awareness really deepens, your actions might not look efficient by market standards, but they gain something far more valuable. They gain grace. They gain a kind of beauty. And this isn't just a poetic idea. It's a qualitative shift that makes a person's actions magnetic, meaningful. The way a person of awareness moves, even just a simple gesture, is filled with presence. It's described as a celebration. This quality, this music of his silence, is something a machine or an efficient person acting like one can never, ever replicate. That grace is the real measure of a life.
I agree that grace is the higher goal, but I have to press the practical point. Is grace a luxury for those who are lucky enough not to have to worry about putting food on the table? We have to be able to strive for awareness while being efficient in the things we simply must do. The solution has to be in accepting that meeting our base needs is non-negotiable. And while we do that, we have to actively avoid the trap, the rat race for more power, more prestige. The pursuit of grace should happen within that context, transforming the action from the inside, not by abandoning the action itself. It's the greedy intention for more that kills awareness, not the required efficient action for sustenance.
My argument really just comes back to this. If the world forces a true choice on us, where efficiency demands a kind of speedy, programmed thinking that kills awareness, and I believe it does, then you have to choose awareness. The value of your true being, of fulfilling your actual destiny, it just vastly outweighs the fleeting, ultimately worthless gains of the marketplace. You can't afford that contamination.
And I agree wholeheartedly that we have to prioritize awareness. We have to avoid that mechanical thirst for more. But intellectual honesty requires us to admit that a baseline of efficiency for survival has to be integrated somehow. The key distinction for me is between the efficient actions you need to take to survive and the mechanical desire for endless accumulation. We have no choice but to meet our basic needs. But while we're doing it, we must be vigilant that we don't sacrifice our awareness and our life itself just for the sake of wanting more.
It seems the material leaves us with a profound challenge then, to figure out where that line is actually drawn between the necessary actions for survival and the radical fulfillment of destiny that comes from non-compromised awareness.
Exactly. And whether true awareness, if it's sustained even during those moments of necessary efficiency, can ultimately transform the action itself into something new, something integrated.